Moving on to our last speaker for the day, Mr. Dipak Kumar Ghosh, Director Technical, Forace Speciality Chem Private Limited, will share his valuable insights. I call upon Mr. T. Shanmuganathan, Council Member, IAF Chennai Chapter, to introduce him.
Very good afternoon, gentlemen and fellow Foundrymen. Thanks to IAF for this opportunity. It's my honor and I am delighted to introduce an expert in the foundry industry. Our next speaker holds impressive academic qualifications, including a PG degree in polymer technology and a distinguished career spanning 40 plus years in various organizations like IVP Limited. And he is with since 2002 with Forace Polymers as technical director. Being a reviewer for the archives of foundry engineering and a life member of the Institution of Engineers India, our speaker has contributed significantly to the foundry field. He has made uninterrupted participation to JIFA for last 10 times and Ankyros, Turkey multiple times, gaining deep insights into sand binders. His global experience includes visits to foundries in various countries and representing India on behalf of IAF at the BRICS Foundry Forum in 2017. Our speaker has also drafted specifications for organic binders for BIS and contributed to educational resources. His work has been published in renowned journals advancing foundry technology. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished speaker, Mr. Dipak Kumar Ghosh. Thank you.
Fellow Foundrymen, good afternoon to all of you. Our last subject or last presentation was on binder for core making binder for green sand foundries. It is a broad classification. Foundries are classified in two ways depending upon the nature of binder used. Green sand foundries where molds are made by green sand and cores by synthetic binders. And there are other group of foundries, they are called no-bake foundries. Those make prototype binder, your castings as well as big castings of any size. These foundries are called no-bake foundries. So when you choose the binder system for any no-bake foundries which you are going to put or which you are going to begin, there are 4 binder systems available in the market. These are Alphaset or ECP, Stachyophenolic, Furan, FNB or Furan Novec, PFset and 2-part phenolic. Among these two are your PFset is used maybe handful of foundries and your acid cured phenolic also it is almost obsolete because of various reasons. PFset is definitely a very good binder system, but it is costly. So most of the foundries cannot afford it. Maybe 8-10 foundries they are using it because of obvious advantages like very, very high productivity, matching almost that of gas cube systems. So our topic is how to choose between Alphaset and Furan. So first it comes as in Alphaset, it is environment friendly. It was introduced in Indian market in 1986, and from day one I have worked with the system. At that time, 2 binder systems, alkyd and acid cured phenolic, were popular. And main reason was that alkyd was very popular because at that time there was almost no continuous mixer. It was all batch mixers. So in 1986, that a lot of continuous mixers were introduced. IMF mixer by one gentleman, maybe some 1820, and then people started looking for fast curing binder systems. And fast among all was your acid cured phenolic with reclamation system. So 1986 saw a beginning of no-bake foundries with this new binder system. Same year, the Alphaset system did not have a presence in India, but we started working in my previous organization in IVP, and within 3-4 years, we got a success. And many foundries started moving from acid cured phenolic to Alphaset. Furan, it is one of the most your oldest binders in foundries across the world and in India also. You can say 1965. But with the your formulations available at that time and absence of continuum mixer, it could not be made a successful binder in Indian foundries. So in 1980s or early 90s, the Furan also got popularity with certain modifications of the binder systems. For every binder system, if you go or if you see the history, your formulations which are established abroad in American and European countries, it cannot work in India. You have to make it suitable for Indian conditions and Indian availability of Indian sands. So you must know that Ashland, it came in India and they could not survive because of this, that establishment of this system in Indian conditions. So going by the speciality of Alphaset, it is environment friendly. Of course, over a period of time, it has seen that it was not as environment friendly as it was predicted because of your reaction product, emission of a reaction product during curing. And then it is free from nitrogen, sulfur and phosphorus. Nitrogen is detrimental to any iron castings and more in steel. Then phosphorus is also an unwanted element in many of the castings. Then flexibility of bench life and steep time. In 1980s, during the introduction, it had only one single hardener. That hardener could not give the bench life requirement of big molds, but in another 10-15 years, a lot of other hardeners could be diagnosed, and these hardeners extended the bench life up to 20 minutes. So that you can say one of the most important binders with extended bench life. If I remember, the largest casting made in Indian foundry is 64 metric ton steel casting with a 90 metric ton liquid metal, and that was in L&T, Surat, and that was made out of the Alphaset only. Of course, that foundry is closed now, they don't make it, but this much of bench life no other binder can give. So now, when you look for Novak foundries, molds are made in two ways. Number one, loop line for faster productivity and box mold for size. And there is a trade-off between the size and whether it is boxed and is fluxless mold. Then Furan, it became competitive since 1990s. And I think your LMW was the first to go for Furan by replacing your acid cure phenolic. And still it is running there, and many other foundries have come. So Furan has got very good dry strength. Dry strength means it starts from stripping to your closing. The strength is known as dry strength. Then ease of decoring. Furan bonds are very, it bonds quickly because of furfural alcohol, and decoring is much easier than. So both of the systems can be made in trussless as well as boxed. And in case of Alphaset, it matches to chemistry of all the metals, ferrous, non-ferrous, steel, Ci, Sg all. But in case of Furan, theoretically, Furan contains nitrogen. Original formulation were all having with the nitrogen. But over a period of time, nitrogen has been brought down drastically, because nitrogen is an element which has got bad effect on castings. It forms pinholes during the cooling period, and its solubility increases with the increase in temperature. Steel being of higher melting, so it is more detrimental to steel than Ci and Sg. Now, the nitrogen, that is if you want to explain more, all forms of nitrogen are not that detrimental. Only ammoniacal nitrogen, which is present, which comes from urea in Furan, is more detrimental. That is the reason steel foundries using Pepset, they are not facing any pinhole porosity. But foundries who are producing your iron castings with your Furan, are facing nitrogen phenol problem. But as I have told you, so initially there was a apprehension that furan cannot be used for steel castings. But as you know, most recently, the Chem, one of the world manufacturer for steel castings, they are using your furan for steel castings, and where the nitrogen level in the binder is less than 0.4%. But now you can ask me, why, if it can be made 0.4%, then why people are using more nitrogen? Because lesser is the nitrogen, more will be the cost. So this is your table that shows 1:1 comparison for various parameters like silica sand, and this is the year, last year we faced your maximum problem with the silica sand, particularly the south foundries. The good sand was your mining of good sand also. So lot of people, lot of foundries had to bring sand from as long as from Gujarat. So sand has got very decisive role to play for the binder system you are going to use. It is always better to choose a sand which is available nearby sources, because it is the highest volume consuming material in any foundry. So in that way, Alphaset has got very good edge over Furan, because Furan, being acid system, alkalinity in the sand affects its curing rate, whereas Alphaset, it has got very good flexibility. It can work with any sand with a DV of as high as 10-15 milliliter 0.1 HCl per 100 dump sand. And in case of Furan, it is in book value, it is less than 4 milliliter. Then storage life, as you know, Alphaset, it is a resol and storage life is limited. In Indian conditions, where temperature goes as high for your 40 degrees centigrade, it is not more than 2 months. Whereas in case of Furan, it can be stored up to 6 months without any issue. Then performance during storage. So it is natural that when you leave the storage life in 2 months, that means it advances of storage. Advancement means it picks up viscosity and loses reactivity. So more you store, more will be your loss of reactivity, so less will be the performance. That is not there with the Furan. Then bench life of mixed sand, as I already told, Alphaset is superior to Furan. Then dry stem, Alphaset, it is polar, and you can see in most of the foundries, the maximum strength of the Alphaset, dry strength of Alphaset is not more than 25, even using 1.6% is binder. Whereas in case of Furan, it goes up to 45 kg per centimeter square using 0.8% binder. Then comes this hot strength. Hot strength of Furan is more than, Alphaset is more than that of Furan, just otherwise. For Furan, dry strength is more, for Alphaset, hot strength is more. Then decoring, I have already told, reclaimability. This is very, very important factor, because now you know, because of the scarcity of the sand, carrying cost of the sand, you want to reclaim sand as more as possible. The reclaimability of Furan sand is one of the maximum among all the binders. Alphaset is one of the minimum among all organic binders because of the inorganic content. So in all practical purposes for Furan, it is more than 90%, and same in case of Alphaset, it is maximum 70%. Then comes quality of mechanical system sand. Mechanical system sand in case of Furan, it gives performance as good as new sand, because LOI of this sand comes less than 0.8, less than 1%, because it's brittle bonds. Then your additional level in case of Alphaset, average, it is in the range of 1.2 to 1.6. 1.2 is rare, 1.6 is more, and if it goes up to 1.8 or 2 in central and eastern part of India. because of the quality of the sand. And in case of Furan, it is, I have already told, 0.8 to maximum 1 or 1.1. Then casting finish, of course in Alphaset it is excellent. In Furan, there are some small issues, but definitely these are all acceptable. Environment, in case of Alphaset, it is good, and Furan also, it is good. Although, as per book value, Alphaset is a superior as far as your environment is concerned, but people who are using Alphaset must have experienced that the smell part of the Alphaset is because of the formaldehyde of any phenol formulated resin. And Furan also may or may not contain phenol because it has got 3 co-reactants: urea, perfluoro alcohol, and phenol, where formaldehyde is a common reactant. So free formalin gives very irritating smell, and that comes in all foundries using any phenol formulated resin, starting from Pepset, Cold Box, Alphaset, and Furan. Furan, it may contain less formaldehyde because of the reaction with urea. So, but in extractive phenolic, the formaldehyde in free form is not there, may not be more, maybe less than 0.1%. But during the mold baking, you will find that there is smell of formaldehyde, irritating smell of formaldehyde, because during the reaction between resin and ester or hardener, formaldehyde is liberated, and in very, very few literatures you will find it. They don't mention it. So now there is art to formulate the resin, how to reduce the smell during the curing period. So that, and the cost more or less same for both. So maybe your Furan is little more costlier as far as per kg, per unit cost is considered, but at the end of the day, end-to-end cost may be same. So next important point comes the selection between Furan and Alphaset is the nitrogen content. As I have told you, Furan, your extractive phenolic or Alphaset, it does not contain nitrogen unless it is added deliberately. Some formulation, some manufacturers, they add little urea to contain the smell which liberate during the curing. So theoretically, it does not contain unless you add it deliberately. Whereas in case of Furan, this resin mostly contains nitrogen to varying extent depending upon the formulation and depending upon your requirement. Still foundries they specify it is less than 0.4 or 0.5. So percentage nitrogen content in binder is less than 1 in case of steel and high thickness ductile iron, and less than equal to 3.5 in most of the formulations where people are using or foundries are using your castings in the loop line or even box molds. So in case of non-ferrous, there is no limit of nitrogen, but the limit comes, it does not exceed 7% because if you use more and more your urea, more than 7% of nitrogen, then it will be unstable and there will be sedimentation of urea at the bottom. So there is the limiting factor or limiting range from the manufacturer's point of view, not from the user's point of view. So now I have told you the nitrogen content of the binder, but at the end of the day, nitrogen content of molding sand is more important than in binder. So that is a very straightforward limits. In case of heavy steel, nitrogen in molding sand should be less than equal to 0.5. Nitrogen in heavy steel, steel and heavy SG less than equal to 0.1 and CI 0.15. You must know that many of the, of course, hot box is very rare nowadays in iron foundries. So a hot box is the binder where UF resins are used. So nitrogen content is a decisive factor while selecting the binders. Now is the mold strength. First, mold strength requirement of molds in the foundries come in many stages. First stage is that during stripping, after mixing the sand in case of your self sets or no bakes, you mix the sand with the binder, hardener, caddies, whatever you say, then fill the pattern, then give some time for steeping. And that time for steeping is determined by various factors, and those vary from foundry to foundry. Most of them checked by seeing the strength of the molds, and there are some mold testing instrument, but most of the cases it is by hand they check it. And if you go by scientifically, the 7.5 kg per centimeter compression is required to steep molds of all sizes, whether it is your loop line or box. Box can be steeped earlier or even lesser strength. So strength, first your strength requirement, I will go by this loop line where molds are made in the continuum mixer and steeped in the loop line in your turntables. So first you steep the mold where strength is required, then it passes to the next place where you bake it. The surface is baked either in by electrical heating or your infrared. So some strength picks up at that point. Then it is finished. Some finishing is given, and then it is applied for either coating by brass or coating by flat coating. So at that point of time, the mold loses some surface strength, because whether it is water based or whether it is thinner based, because the solvent, whether water thinner, it penetrates to the surface or soft surface. That gate temporarily softens the mold surface. But next step, immediately when it is baked or lighted up, that strength is regained. Rather it will little more. The surface strength becomes little more because of the curing by the heat. The next step is either heating in your baking oven, or it goes for torching to give it more, improve the strength on the surface. And final strength is closing of two halves along with cores. So up to this is called dry strength. And dry strength requirement, it has been found that 25 kg per centimeter square is more than enough to meet the dry strength of all types of mold, whether it is trussless or boxed, and that is met by Alphaset as well as Furan. Of course, Furan it reaches just double. The dry strength reaches in the range of 40-45 kg per centimeter square, even at 0.8% binder addition level. So this is more or less I have explained. Now a typical characteristics for Alphaset bonded molds is that these molds, after it is closed and poured, during pouring, there is a term called veining of the castings, which is associated with the silica sand molds, where the sand expands to range of 4% volumetric, it goes for 4% volumetric expand at a temperature of 573 degrees centigrade, which is called, is due to alpha to beta state transition of silica sand. So what happens, if your binder system does not expand, but sand expands, then there will be cracking, and molten metal will penetrate through the crack, and ultimately it will appear as a veining. So in case of big castings, it doesn't matter because you can grind it. But what happens, if inside the hole it happens, it's very difficult to grind it. Alphaset is the only binder system where the system goes for a expansion at that temperature. So that temperature, both sand and binder goes expansion, and it minimizes or it eliminates the veining. So that is the speciality of Alphaset, which other binders don't have, or it has very minimum depending upon the ratio of the expansion. And in Furan being a brittle system, it suffers from that type of issues. So this is the schematic diagram for the strain pickup of the molds right from your stripping to your closing. And there is a thermoplastic zone after pouring that I have already explained. So now you can see the left one is Furan sand. You can see its addition level is new sand 1.0 and mechanical it is 0.8. Catalyst addition varies from 30 to 50. You must be aware that depends upon the bench life stiffness requirement and climatics and ambient temperature. So it does not exceed 50 and does not come down below 30 in the temperature range of Indian foundries, which go from 15 degree to 40 degrees centigrade. But I have seen the Furan to be used in Middle East and in your Saudi Arabia, it is used up to 55 degrees centigrade and molds are quite good. Of course, you need to change the formulation where it is used at very high temperature to keep a cushion. So you can see the both new and mechanical reclaimed sand, in case of Furan, the dry strength is quite high. And the same in case of Alphaset, even using 1.35% of binder, it is much lesser than that of your Furan. Next is the same your bar chart, but side by side, Alphaset Furan your new and your reclaimed sand, mechanical reclaimed sand. Mechanical reclaimed sand of Alphaset, it gives up to 70%, I told you, because decoring is really difficult. But in case of Furan, it goes up to 90% in mechanical itself. And if you go by the mechanical followed by thermal, it is practically 100% but for mechanical loss. Whereas in case of Alphaset, the same. And one more your observation has come for Alphaset is that if you see maybe 8-10 foundries in the country, they have gone for thermal reclamation in Alphaset. Thermal reclamation is mechanical is always followed by thermal to reduce the alloy. Then you put in a thermal chamber. In thermal chamber, in case of Alphaset, you need to inject some chemical because it contains inorganic material and that does not burn. That chemical which is injected in the your thermal chamber at 650-700 degrees centigrade, it reduces the melting point of the inorganic salt and it drives out from the chamber in the form of dust particles. But one recent observation is that thermally reclaimed Alphaset sand is very unstable. So if you preserve the thermally reclaimed sand for months, it has been found that it does not work or it becomes useless. You cannot use it. It does not bond with the resin. So many of the foundries that stop thermal, and I know examples where people have gone for secondary reclamation. That means primary followed by secondary, where the alloy is possible to bring down by 0.8% and the reclaimability is 85%. So it is a much better alternate than your thermal reclamation, which is a recent observation and people have started doing that. Then these are the data collected from 3 foundries using Alphaset, Furan and Pepset in the loop line. You can see Pepset, I have told you it is the fastest snowbake on the earth. It gives strip time as fast as 10 minutes and strip your pouring time as low as 2 hours. And binder demand is very low, productivity is very high, and plastic weight maximum in the loop line produced is 1.5 metric ton. In case of Alphaset, it is 1.2, and in case of Furan, it is 1.0. But it does not mean that it cannot be more than that, because these are the practical examples I have collected from the foundries. Sand to metal ratio, you can see in structured phenolic is 2.75, because here hot strength is much more. And in case of Alphaset, your Furan it is 3.5, and in case of your Pepset it is 3.3. Again, this is the data collected from 3 foundries in the country. So now it is a comparison between this. It is comparison of hot and your dry and hot strength. You can see there is no systematic method, structured method for checking the hot strength and your return strength or your what is called your decoring behavior. So we tried and we found that this is not a very, it is possible to carry out the test in your own laboratory, and it reflects with your practical with your practical case of decoring and practical hot strength. What do you do after your operations are over? You samples 2-inch by 2-inch specimen, you finally bake it to get the maximum strength possible out of the system. Then after that, what do? You keep the furnace at 550 degrees centigrade and put the samples one by one. And every 5 minutes, you can take out two samples. One you test in the hot condition and one after cooling. So the hot condition, it is related to hot strength, and the cold condition, it is related to return strength. You can see over a period of time, many these binders behave in a different way. Alphaset, although your initial strength or the no bake after baking strength is low, but after over a successive period of time, it retains strength more. Your return strength is much more than other two. And Furan, it almost collapses up to a particular time. So now it is a customized formulation. I have already told you. Every foundry has got its own practice of using your different type of binders, and main variables are the sand and climatic. But in the case of Alphaset, main variables are, as you know, it is called alkaline thalonic Novec. It contains water, phenol formaldehyde resin, then sodium and potassium hydroxide. So these are the different variables with which you can make different formulations to soak different sand and different your climatic. As I have already told, I think this point reclamation I have already told, and the additional level with Alphaset sand in our country, it is 1.2% minimum, below which it does not work. But this is true in a very good sand, and maybe a couple of foundries in South India, they are using this practice. But if you go to middle, central part of the India, north and east, the additional level is as high as 1.8% because of the poor quality of the input sand. Now comes Furan. Furan, this is interesting. Furan, there are 3 co-reactants for formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is a common reactant. Then other reactant is phenol, purple alcohol, and urea. You know urea and purple alcohol is a chemical of agricultural origin. It is extracted from rice husk. And phenol, you know, phenol is a synthetic chemical. And now, here the variables are the ratio of phenol, purple alcohol, urea, and formaldehyde. So a lot of variations in the formulation is possible. And percentage purple alcohol in the system, purple alcohol is very costly material, and you know in India it is produced, but it cannot meet more than 10% of the total requirement in the country. That too only for foundry resins. So it is imported and cost is more. So you have to have a trade-off between the cost of purple alcohol and the finished product. Phenol, as you know, phenol is also mostly imported, but it is a very easily available material. So you can play the ratio between phenol, formaldehyde, and urea to get your desired product line. And urea, as I have told, more is urea, more is the nitrogen content, more is the collapsibility. So you can see that in Furan mode, in the flux test line, most of the cases, many of the cases, when you pour the metal during the cooling period, occasionally the modes crack because it is its poor hot strength. So this is how to choose your binder for the greenfield foundries between Alphaset and Furan. Sand is the most important one. Your binder has to suit your sand. I cannot say that my binder will not suit your sand, so change the binder. It's not possible. Then compatibility. Alphaset has got maximum compatibility for all sources of sand. Furan is very, very choosy. The mixer type. Nowadays, you cannot, I think there is no use of talking about the batch mixer. 90% of the foundries you use continuum mixer and with reclamation. So this is, both the systems are applicable for. Then comes your environment. As you know, all organic binders pollute the workplace environment to various extent depending upon the formulation, addition level and reclamation. More is the reclamation, better you can preserve the ecology because your digging of the, mining of the sand will be reduced. Then economy is definitely one of the priorities, but over a period of time it has been found that economy to some extent can be compromised for the sake of health of the foundrymen and people working in the foundry. One more important aspect is that in our country, many of the cases, as far as free monomers are considered, there is no specification. So many of the countries where formulations, same formulations are used of different your chemicals, become binders and European countries are here. We use more, we allow to keep more monomer, which is restricted in European countries. So in years to come, we have to look into that. And I am talking about mostly the free phenol content of different binders. We need to restrict it to below 5% in years to come, which is already there in advanced countries. But here we still continue with that. So to sum up, these are two most widely used binder for your no-web foundries. Both of has got merits and demerits. Alphaset, the merits are it is nitrogen sulfur phosphorus system. So expected that casting finish will be much better. Then Furan, special gates are required for low nitrogen for steel, low sulfur for SGRM castings. Reclaimability, as I have told, Furan is the best, not only among these two, but all organic binders this is the best, and worst is Alphaset. With reduced level of free monomers, modern formulas are much more environment friendly than past one. But there is no compulsion, there is no, we have to look forward to bring down the your level of pollution in foundries in years to come to make it better workplace environment for future generation foundrymen. I think this finished. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions, I think we shall take it over the lunch as we are at the end of the session. So, sir, we wholeheartedly would like to thank you for the amount of effort you have taken for this elaborate presentation. On behalf of IIF Chennai chapter, I like to call upon Mr. Felix Sahayaraj, past chairman IIF Chennai chapter, to felicitate Mr. Dipak Kumar Ghosh with traditional Angavastram. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to call upon Mr. S.C. Ranganathan, past chairman IIF Chennai chapter, to present our speaker with a memento.